GamingBolt presents 15 things nobody wants to admit about Destiny 2. Whether you love Bungie's Destiny 2 or mildly appreciate it, there's no denying the game has problems. In fact, some problems are seemingly invisible to most diehard fans. So let's take a look at 15 things nobody wants to admit about Destiny 2. Redrix's Claymore isn't worth the grind. Introduced with the first season of ranked competitive play, Redrix's Claymore requires 2100 glory points and the rank of Fabled to earn. Its core perk is Desperado, which increases rate of fire after Outlaw is activated. Here's the thing though, competitive play is a broken mess. Players aren't matched based on their rank. There are still plenty of levers, and solo players can be matched against stacked groups all day long. Furthermore, whether it's the Crucible or PvE, there are plenty of weapons that are superior to Redrix's Claymore, like Vigilance Wing and Graviton Lance. Raid difficulty is pointless without great rewards. When Spire of Stars, Warmind's raid lair went live, the difficulty was grueling. While this could be attributed to players not being the right power level, progression of which was nerfed by Bungie, the raid lair itself has numerous fail states. As such, without a regular group, even LFGing the activity can be a trying process. Of course, none of this matters because many of the items across the raid and raid lairs are ultimately pointless. The armor is mostly cosmetic, and aside from Sins of the Past and Midnight Coup, both obtainable in the base raid, there's nothing worth the headache. Raid mods usable only in raids are boring. Here's a great idea. Play the raid and obtain exclusive mods that will lead to awesome bonuses like 25% more ability damage, or melee kills increasing all damage by 20%. Surely that's a great reward for beating the raid, right? Well, unfortunately, these mods only work in the raid. Wouldn't it have been fun to have them for the challenging heroic strikes? Or even Escalation Protocol's higher stages? Well, yeah, but that would make too much sense. PvP will never be balanced. You can complain about time to kill, power ammo economy being out of whack, this weapon or that being unbalanced, and so on. But guess what? The game will never be balanced. A loot-based game is, for the most part, all about feeling powerful. Such a tenet has no place in PvP, and when Bungie did try to balance it by effectively nerfing everything, the result was an incredibly boring PvP and PvE experience. Every activity needs matchmaking. It's 2018. Add matchmaking to nightfalls, patrols, raids, so on and so forth. What possible reason is there to lock off this content? Because Bungie thinks that players will be better off making their own groups to tackle it, while providing no in-game LFG. The hilarious part is that Bungie's attempt at nightfall and raid matchmaking, guided games, is a raging failure. It doesn't protect players from the horrors of open matchmaking and only results in horribly long queue times. Destiny 2 was unnecessary. Now that we're all warmed up on the travesty that's Destiny 2, let's admit it, it was unnecessary. Bungie could have created a huge expansion for the base game, or even carried over all of Destiny's areas into a new game. The segregation of content is useless. And yeah, we're aware that there's a contract with Activision to produce 3 or 4 Destiny games with expansions over 10 years, but that condition is almost as asinine as making a looter-shooter sequel that wipes out everyone's progress at the start of the game, but then brings back all the old loot and paid expansions. Oh. Wait. Random rolls won't fix garbage perks. As much excitement as there is for random rolls in the upcoming Forsaken DLC, many are forgetting that the majority of the current perk pool is abysmal. It was made this way to facilitate some kind of balance for PvP or something. The end result is that no matter how decent a gun is, its perks ultimately make or break it. Surprise, surprise, there are only a handful of decent guns worth using. With the current status quo of perks, we don't see loot becoming any more desirable in Forsaken. The gunplay is passable. Look, the shooting in Destiny 2, much like that of Destiny, is fine. In fact, it's probably the best part of both games. However, it's not quite the amazing, you have to experience this above all else gameplay that's leagues above everything else. Granted, it's fulfilling a different purpose, carrying on the gunplay established in Halo, and it does that. It's just not the best thing ever, let alone the best in first-person shooters, and yeah, that's taking supers into account as well. Mission objective variety is dull and uninspired. The mission variety, on the other hand, is pretty abysmal by any and every stretch of the imagination. Defend a point against waves of enemies while your ghost scans for something? It's here, it's there, and happens way too often. Enemy AI is awful, and there's so little variety in everything. Having the same repetitive missions wouldn't be so bad if something felt dynamic. Everything is static. Alas, whether it's PvE or PvP, everything in Destiny 2 feels so damn static. Bosses and enemies have the same boring patterns and require heaps of bullets to down. Even the raid with its mystery and puzzles breaks down into one right method to do something year in and year out. The right method, by the way, is usually do this setup, weaken the boss defense, DPS, repeat. Movement feels dull, the progression loop is dull, and the milestone system needed an overhaul yesterday. Negative heroic strike modifiers are terrible. Bungie finally made good on its promise to bring heroic strike modifiers to Destiny 2, and bungled the whole premise. You see, heroic strikes have one key modifier for the week, usually an elemental singe, and daily random modifiers. That means you could get something like heavyweight, which doubles power weapon damage and ammo drop rates. You could also get glass, where health and shields are halved with doubled recharge rates. Or blackout, which disables the raid and causes enemies to deal 20 times the melee damage. It's lame, annoying, and even the chance of getting a slight increase in power level every couple of strikes offers no incentive. And before you utter "get good," keep in mind that games like Monster Hunter World and Dark Souls reward players for understanding the combat system and enemy patterns while developing the most effective solutions. Destiny 2's hero strike modifiers are static and meandering with too little reward to justify that time sink. Max power is ultimately pointless. The best part of grinding for power level? It's useless. Actually, it does provide a slight edge to your stats, but don't go expecting to dominate over 350 power level enemies if you're 385 power or something. The main purpose of power level is simply to gate players' progress for certain activities and to make enemies that much tougher if you're underleveled, nothing more. Great art is wasted on bad level design. When playing Dark Souls 3 recently, the art design came across as exceptionally captivating. However, I was also amazed by how such art could be created while the environments themselves made for strategic play. Baiting out enemies into different sections, utilizing elevations for an advantage, kiting foes, etc. are all key. Destiny 2 has none of that. Its art design is great, but the levels are just movie sets, providing mostly linear paths with little to no interaction. It's not hard to create impressive levels that players interact with in different ways. See Monster Hunter World, Titanfall 2, Dark Souls 3, etc. Seeing Destiny 2 continuously struggle with this is getting tiring. And yeah, even the raid is guilty despite offering more interactivity with its large set pieces. Bungie can't take this series forward. For all of its supposed brilliance, Bungie just can't evolve the formula for Destiny 2. The entire game was a downgrade from Destiny 1 at launch, and subsequent updates have been all about adding back missing features. But where are the ship battles? The big team battles? The conquest-style maps or multi-tiered world bosses or Greater Rift-style dungeons? The Forsaken DLC is attempting to add something new with an end-game zone and Gambit mode again, but these are nothing revolutionary for the series. Destiny 2 is Destiny at its core. Of course, at the end of the day, it's always important to remember, Destiny 2 is still Destiny. It'll remain that way for years. Some people will love it and embrace it. Others will despise it and move on to something else. Destiny 2, like many games, should be enjoyed for what it is. If you can't, then there are plenty of superior games to enjoy. Love it, hate it, stay with it, or abandon it. But this is pretty much it for Bungie's franchise.
And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.